I give the
Good
platform
afternoon
to
to
our
you all.
director, Right of Nature, to give us the introductory message.
All right, so good afternoon to you all. It is my honor and privilege on behalf of the Rise of Nature Ghana movement, which we call RoNAG, to welcome you to today's panel discussion on a very timely and thought-provoking theme. Can mainstreaming the rise of nature be a game changer for Ghana's environmental governance and our fight against Galamsey? We all know that currently Ghana continues to grapple with the devastating impacts of Galamsey, or illegal mining, on our rivers, our forests, our farmlands, biodiversity, as well as the health and livelihoods of all Ghanaians. And it has become clear that the conventional approaches in our traditional legal systems are not working. They are insufficient in arresting the Galamsey canker or menace. So what Ghana needs now is an innovative governance framework or approach that respects nature as possessing inherent rights, an approach that views all natural elements as part of the broader ecosystem, and that one part of the ecosystem depends on the other. The rise of nature paradigm offers a transformative approach to environmental governance. It invites us to rethink environmental governance from the anthropocentric view that sees nature as a buffet of resources to a more ecocentric view of nature that acknowledges that the well-being of humanity is inseparable from the well-being of nature, and that nature has her own inherent rights to exist, to thrive, and to regenerate. Over the past few years, maybe 2 years, the Rise of Nature Ghana movement has been privileged to contribute to this conversation across Ghana. We have conducted an academic research on the rise of nature. We've embarked on community and school sensitization campaigns and workshops. We have even developed pedagogical resources that can be used for climate and nature-based education, rooted in Ghanaian Indigenous ecological wisdom. Now, today's panel discussion will share highlights of the key findings of the research I mentioned, which was titled Assessing Legal Frameworks and Stakeholders' Perspectives on Mainstreaming the Rise of Nature into Ghana's Environmental Governance Framework. The panel discussion aims at helping us appreciate why we need the new concept called the rise of nature. It will attempt to answer 4 fundamental questions. The first has to do with, can recognizing the rise of nature strengthen our fight against Galamsey? Can the rise of nature framework provide stronger legal and ethical foundations for protecting nature in Ghana? Can Ghanaian indigenous knowledge as well as constitutional reform align together or work together to create a more sustainable future? And what practical steps should Ghana take if we are to move from aspiration to the implementation of the rights of nature? We are hopeful that these 4 fundamental questions will be explored by our distinguished panelists. We are privileged to have the experts from diverse backgrounds, and we believe that their expertise, which spans from environmental law and governance through to public policy, indigenous knowledge, and community engagement, will help us deepen our understanding of the rise of nature. At this point, I want to introduce the moderator for the panel discussion, who is in the person of Dr. Michael Essuman. A little background of Dr. Michael Essuman is that he is a senior academic in the Department of Publishing Studies at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He is a scholar of textbook and educational media, climate change publishing, and open learning ecosystems. His scholarship and policy advocacy centers on environmental literacy, cognitive textbook design, and the integration of climate resilience into national curricula and educational frameworks. Dr. Essuman's work examines how AI-driven publishing tools, sustainable learning ecosystems, and accessible media can inform recent approaches to climate education, environmental stewardship, and sustainable development across not just Ghana, but Africa. He holds a PhD in art education with a specialization in textbook development and educational media. He also holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Publishing Studies from KNUST. He serves as the board chairman of the Ghana Library Authority, and is a former textbook development and evaluation consultant to the Ministry of Education of Ghana. And at RoNAG, he is the Information and Communications Officer. He is dedicated to bridging academic research with industry academia ecosystems. He contributes to global scholarship dialogues through his role on the editorial team of a journal called African Social Science and Humanities Journal. And he's using his editorial work to advance accessible, resilient learning media that supports long-term ecological sustainability. So it is now my pleasure to invite our moderator, Dr. Michael Essuman, to guide us through today's discussion. Once again, thank you all for honoring our invitation and for joining us in this very important conversation as we mark the World Nature Conservation Day 2026. So over to you, Dr. Essuman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dickson Adom, who happened to be our Director for Rights of Nature Ghana Movement, RoNAG, for your introductory message, and we really appreciate it so much. Thank you very much. I'll proceed with the part of the program by introducing our panelists for today's program. We have Dr. David Azanu. Dr. David Azanu is a lecturer at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Ghana, a specialist in environmental analytical chemistry with deep expertise in toxicology, ecological modeling, and eco-sustainability. His research investigates how chemical pollutants move through water, soil, food systems, and living organisms across Ghana's environment, generating evidence that inform both public health decision-making and environmental governance. Doc is committed to producing science that is not only internationally rigorous, but locally grounded and actionable. As an environmental analyst at the Rights of Nature Ghana movement, Dr. Azanu brings analytical depth to the movement advocacy for recognizing nature's inherent right to exist, strive, and regenerate. He is committed to the view that environmental science must serve not only academic progress, but the community and the ecosystem most at risk, and that nature deserves advocates grounded equally in evidence and principles. So that is our Dr. David Azanu. The next panelist is Mr. Harrison Kwabena Owusu. He's a geographer and environmental researcher whose work focuses on climate adaptation, environmental governance, water resource management, and the rights of nature. He serves as the research dissemination officer at the Rights of Nature Ghana movement, where he promotes research informed advocacy, community engagement, and policy dialogue on ecological stewardship and environmental justice. His research spans climate resilience, nature-based solutions, and the integration of indigenous ecological knowledge into environmental governance. Harrison has contributed to research on urban flood adaptation, illegal mining, and the rights of nature in Ghana, and it's committed to advancing evidence-based policies that support resilient community and healthy ecosystems. The next is Dr. Daniel Boamah Asante. He's a lecturer at the University of New Brunswick in Canada and a scholar of religion, culture, and environment. His scholarship and advocacy center on environmental justice and integration of traditional ecological knowledge in law, justice, policy, and environmental governance. Dr. Asante's work examines how African indigenous worldview and community-based practice can inform contemporary approaches to climate justice, sustainability, and ecological stewardship. He is dedicated to bringing academic research with community knowledge and to advancing legal framework that recognizes the intrinsic value of nature, including through his contribution to global conversation dialogues. The next is Dr. Prince Edem Dzakpasu, lecturer at KNUST, an educational technologist specializing in green informatics and digital innovations. His scholarship and advocacy center on technology-driven conversation strategies, environmental education, and integration of indigenous ecological knowledge into sustainable efforts. Doc serves as the advocacy and community outreach coordinator for the Rights of Nature Ghana RoNAG, where he leads advocacy campaigns, research initiative, and capacity building program aimed at fostering the legal recognition of nature's rights. He's dedicated to bringing digital innovation with environmental stewardship and to collaborate with researchers, conversationists, and policymakers to advance a sustainable relationship between humans and nature. The last on our list is Mr. Prince Anane Agyei. He's a seasoned conservationist and passionate environmental advocate with over 20 years of experience in managing protected landscapes, serving as park manager for Dija National Park and deputy director for Rights of Nature Ghana. Prince stands at the forefront of biodiversity conservation, climate resilience, and eco-governance. He seamlessly integrates hands-on field-level protected area management with progressive policy framework that recognize nature intrinsic rights. Holding degrees in tourism, environmental science, and an MBA, he's currently pursuing his PhD in social forestry and environmental governance. Through this multidisciplinary background, Prince remains firstly committed to protecting wildlife, restoring forest health, and fostering community-led stewardship. Whether in the heart of the national park or shaping environment policy, his work is driven by a deep reverence for the wild and an unwavering mission to secure a sustainable future. So, fellow listeners and members on this platform, these are our panelists for today's discussions. And as part of the process, I'll begin with the engagement and with the questions for our panelists to begin to respond to them accordingly. We have on our list. This is an open question for all of you, and I will give you 1 minute each for each and every one to touch on the same question. Share your view on that. And the first question is, do you believe mainstreaming the rights of nature could be a game changer in Ghana's fight against Galamsey? Do you believe mainstreaming the rights of nature could be a game changer in Ghana's fight against Galamsey? Why or why not? This one is for all of us. So first of all, I will listen to Mr. Harrison so that it will be in that order. If Mr. Harrison can respond to that, followed by Dr. Azanu, Dr. Edem, and Dr. Prince, and Mr. Dan. In that order.
Please, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
I believe that it is true. We should mainstream rights of nature into our ecological, our environmental system. But we should do it in sync with making sure that we have independent anti-corruption enforcement agency around, so that it will be at par. For instance, when we are able to mainstream rights of nature into our environmental system, it will give these legal entities with enforceable rights. And if our ecosystems are having enforceable rights, it's very, very easy for communities, rural communities and others to directly defend this ecosystem. But I believe that we should do it in sync with having independent anti-corruption enforcement. Hello, please, am I audible?
You are on the floor. We can hear you clearly.
Like having community guardianship system, so that these people will liaise together to make sure that the rights of nature are actually implemented real time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison. So per your response, we should have community guardianship systems to help us in this Galamsey fight. Thank you very much. We'll also call on Dr. Azanu to also give us your take on that.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join this panelist to share my view on this topic. Asking whether rights of nature could be a game changer in Ghana's fight against Galamsey, I would say absolutely. Absolutely, that will be a game changer. Why? Our host had actually set the tone of what nature stands for. In our current legal framework, it treats rivers, water bodies as a resource to be managed. So we see it as resources to be managed, not living systems with their own inherent integrity and rights to exist. So rights of nature is one of the tools, in fact, most serious tool, which if it's deployed will help change the game in terms of the fight towards Galamsey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Azanu, and really appreciate your comments. in his presentation, right of nature is a tool that can actually be used to preserve our rivers, water bodies, and then the forest reserve as well. Thank you very much for your response. Dr. Edem. Dr. Edem.
Dr. Edem is struggling to join, so kindly call another part.
Yes, Mr. Prince. Mr. Prince, you have the floor.
Yeah. Yes. Good afternoon, colleague panelists. Thank you for this opportunity. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you for the opportunity to learn. I am of the view that we have no option than to accept the mainstream rights of nature. If you look at the efforts that we seem to put in the fight against Galamsey in our country for the past 15 or so years, and the results that I don't know whether we seem to get results, but with all the efforts that is being put in, or that it seems like we are putting in the resources, I think we've gotten to a point where the option is for us to look at the issue of rights of nature. And this is where we have to build strong advocacy, especially among the communities, for them to stand up and then make sure that nature has rights. And therefore, the activities or the menace of Galamsey and its negative effects on nature will have to stop. So we've gotten to a point as a country that, for me, the option for us is the mainstream right of nature by backing it with major legal instruments that will enforce it and ensure that the menace of Galamsey is reduced to its minimum and possibly prevented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prince, for your response.
I don't know if my microphone is working now. Can you please hear me?
We can please hear you.
All right. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And colleagues, good afternoon to us all. Concerning the question of whether
rights of
I
nature,
believe, whether rights of nature could be a game changer in Ghana's fight against Galamsey in particular. I believe it is a very good starting point. And yes, it could be a game changer because then we would begin to look at nature from a different perspective, a perspective that would be more of like regarding nature as a person rather than a resource, as the immediate speaker just mentioned. And so, yes, to me, I believe that it is the way to go. And the success, however, depends on how well as a people or as a society we are willing to embrace what it takes to have nature have the rights that we all advocate for. So yes, it is a game changer for me, depending on how society or how we as a people would want to embrace it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Dzakpasu Edem, for your comments. So, rights of nature is a good starting point, and from Mr. Prince, we have no option than to opt for rights of nature to help us overcome this menace that is eating us up. I call on Mr. Dan. Mr. Dan,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And like someone would say, when all my colleagues have said yes, who am I to say no? But of course, I'm not saying yes because I'm siding with everyone else. And that is the truth. Yes, I think right of nature could be a big game changer. No two ways about that. But I want us to also consider that it is not a straightforward thing. It must be accompanied by strong enforcement. And also, we have to also consider the political commitment. As Dr. Azanu and Dr. Edem rightly pointed out, if you look at our current approach to environmental stewardship, it's largely that we see nature as a property. We see nature as a resource that might be exploited, and then that is all. We just use it at our advantage. But if you look at rights of nature, it changes the conversation by recognizing the river bodies, the forest, and all other forms of ecosystem as having an inherent right to exist and the inherent right to regenerate and to flourish. And so I think that if we look at it from this perspective, then we need to ask ourselves the critical question: what does nature need to survive? And we also need to ask ourselves, how much economic benefit can we obtain? Okay, so rather than just asking ourselves how we will benefit from nature, we begin to ask ourselves how nature can survive. And for rights of nature, I think it is not a replacement for environmental laws. I believe that. But rather, it is a deeper ethical and a legal framework that can really strengthen the environmental laws that are already in place and protect the ecological laws that we have. And so I think it centers on development decisions rather than exploitation and all. So of course, it's a big yes that it can be a game changer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists, for your response to that, and all point to the fact that rights of nature is timely and it should be backed by strong enforcement system. And that is coming from Mr. Dan. Thank you. So if that is the case, let's look at this perspective. Ghana has enacted numerous environmental laws and established several institutions, yet illegal mining continues to strive. What are the biggest governance failures that have allowed Galamsey to persist? Anybody can respond to that. What are the biggest governance failures that have allowed Galamsey to persist? Yeah, Mr. Harrison.
Please, I suppose it is weak enforcement capacity. That is how I believe, because if enforcement institution go on board and apprehend these Galamseyers, there is a political interference. Someone from a high political ranking will call that, oh, he is one of my boys, so kindly let him go. And then that person will be allowed to go scot-free. So if we are able to strengthen our enforcement capacity, I think we will be able to solve this endemic problem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison, for your comment. Any other that we can move on? Any other response to that?
Yes, please. My hand is up.
Whose hands? Prince, yes. Prince,
Yes,
you're on board.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you. I'm also of the view that the non-synchronization of our laws and as well as the operation of agencies, government agencies to be specific, is also one of our challenges in fighting. In as much as I agree with the earlier panel on the issue of political interference. I'm also of the view that there are so many laws that we've enacted, but the synchronization of these laws, and it also seems that different agencies are operating differently. Our operations are not put together to fight a common goal. You can see, for example, the EPA is doing something different. Forestry Commission is doing other thing different. All our operations are like, I mean, they are not put together to fight a common goal. And I think that is also something that is not helping us to enforce the laws that we have enacted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prince. Mr. Prince's comment has opened to a whole chapter that runs through our governance system in this country, and that's the synchronization of our various agencies. In fact, it's one of the key issues that is up, and I don't know, maybe through some of these platforms, our various institutions or agencies will get to know and see how best they can synchronize into one and champion for a common goal. So thank you very much, Mr. Prince. And I'll take that of Mr. Daniel, and then we'll move on to the next
Yes.
concept. Yeah.
Thank you. I was just thinking about this in terms of, just some few years back, there was a saying in Ghana that the only law that really works is that the male should not visit the washroom of a female, and the vice versa. But today we are here, unfortunately, talking about other laws that have not worked, including environmental laws. And I think the biggest failure is not the absence of law, as we pointed out. The laws are there, but the biggest failure is the gap between the laws and the implementation. Okay, so the laws are there, the institutions are there, the permits are there, the regulations are there, but the issue has to do with implementation. And that is where the issue is. And I also agree with Prince, what he just said. There is also a failure of coordination. And when we are talking about environmental protection, it involves multiple institutions. And when these responsibilities are fragmented, obviously, what it means is that accountability will also not be clear. And illegal miners, I believe, over the years have exploited those gaps. And so we must acknowledge that the laws are there, but the implementation is the issue. Once implementation is enforced, then some of these gaps can be closed, and those who are involved in these Galamsey will be able to crack down on them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dan. So if that is the case, which of the problems should we tackle first? Among all the issues that you've elaborated, all of you, all the panelists, which one should we actually handle? Is it the legal problem, the economic problem, the governance problem, societal problem? Which one should Ghana tackle first? First, before the others. We'll leave the others, but which one should we tackle first? Any panel member can respond to that. Mr. Prince. Yes, Doc. Doc Edem.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
so I'm getting a little confused because sometimes when I hear the name Prince, I think I am the one. Then
Yeah, so
sometimes
now
I'm
use Dr. Prince and Mr. Prince.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edem would
Or
have been
Dr. Edem.
fine.
Okay,
Edem
Dr.
would-
Edem.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. So
Hello?
Okay, so for me, I believe that I am more inclined towards us looking at the legal framework. The legal framework. My reasoning is based on the fact that as a country, we live in a legal entity or legal environment, so to speak. And everything that we do is supposed to be within the ambience of law. And even though it is unfortunate that there are laws and sometimes they do not seem to be working, if we have a serious mind to pursue this menace properly, I believe that we should be starting from the legal aspect where we have the appropriate laws enacted to ensure that we give a legal backing to whatever action or inactions that could be taking place. That's my view.
Thank you very much, Edem. But I also heard from Mr. Daniel that we have the environmental law in place, and we believe that the environmental law has all it takes. But what is left with is implementation. In any way, let me hear from you. So, Mr. David, let's hear from you, David, on which one should we start from. Mr. Edem said we should start from our laws. Let's begin from our laws. Probably the environmental law has some challenges and some weaknesses that is posing a problem. So he is still emphasizing on the law. So what is your take on which one should we start or begin with?
David, you are muted.
David, you are muted.
Oh, sorry.
Uh-huh.
I was speaking and no one was hearing me. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay.
I want us to say that how do we go about it? Our waters are getting polluted.
So which one should we tackle first? Is it government problem, economic problem, societal, legal? Which one should we tackle first?
The issue is that we can't start from one side. All must be done. And as we are doing it, we just have to say no to as the first declaration. Because the water is getting dirty. In fact, it takes not 2 days for them to destroy an acre. Forest that took 50 years or probably 100 years to be established is being eroded or destroyed just within a day. So the action must be now and just a stop. Then the question is, how do we help? Challenges are there, economic, there can be law issues, there can be issues related to all this thing, then gradually. But the first thing is that before we can start, there must be a stop.
Okay.
People must stop and let us all take action from all sides.
Thank you, David. David is saying that say no, all must stop, everything must cease. We have to declare state of emergency as quickly as possible for us to think through before we continue. So cease. Let's seize everything. He has no option for which one first. Let's seize everything. All right, Daniel.
Well, I think all four are important. But if we are to start from somewhere, personally, I believe that I will identify governance as the central problem. Why? Because governance determines the legal. It determines how economic and social dimensions should be managed. Okay, so once we tackle the governance, like I mentioned, all of them are important. But if we are to have a starting point, then my emphasis will be on governance, because governance will determine how the legal, the economic, and the social dimensions are managed. And so people are engaging in illegal mining partly because of economic necessity. But the point is, Galamsey continues at such a scale because governance systems have failed to consistently prevent and to protect environmental laws and all that. So I would say that governance is very key, especially in these factors. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So governance is key and need to be taken up at first to control the rest of the problems. Thank you very much, Daniel. Harrison, do you have something to say? I've seen your hands up.
Yeah. I also second with governance. The reason is that it is true. Galamsey encompasses all four dimensions. It touches economy, it touches law, it touches society. But I believe it is more of a governance problem. The reason is that we don't have shortage of laws. If we need security agents to halt Galamsey sites, to seize excavators and others, we will get those security task force right now to do the job for us. But what we are lacking right now is that the Ghana as at now lack institutional integrity that is free from political patronage or corruption. So we must tackle this governance problem first. And this is how we should tackle it. We should try as much as we are able to depoliticize the enforcement capacity that we are having. We should bring on board traditional authorities and the local folks. These are neutral persons. They are not into the hands of the government. So if these individuals are brought on board, and as it is happening right now, we punish powerful sponsors, make sure powerful sponsors of illegal mining are held accountable. If we are able to tackle it from this dimension, I believe we'll be able to solve this endemic problem.
Oh, thank you very much, Harrison, too, for your top up or your contribution. The conversation is becoming more interesting. And so I want to come from this perspective. For many Ghanaians, the right of nature is still a new concept. It's a new concept to them. Some haven't gotten it deeper and clearer. What does it mean in practical terms, and how is it different from our current environmental laws? What does it mean in practical terms, and how is it different from our environmental laws? So, Mr. Harrison.
Okay. Rise of nature will change how our domestic laws will view nature. Instead of treating nature as property or resources to be used by humans, it recognizes the ecosystems such as rivers, forests, wetlands as having their own legal right to exist, thrive, and to be restored. So, for example, under our current legal administration, if River Pra or Broom is polluted, someone will usually has to prove that that pollution is bringing harm to himself or his property before that issue can be heard in court. If a corporate society or an individual is unable to prove that the pollution is affecting him or her property personally, then it will be dismissed at the law court. But under the rights of nature framework, the river itself is recognized as the party that is being injured. And this will give communities and other persons authority to take legal action on behalf of the river, even though it hasn't been established that personal loss has actually occurred.
Okay. Thank you very much, Harrison, for your response to that. So in practical terms, we should see these water, river bodies, forest reserves as they have the right, and we need a community to be there to speak for them and defend them so long as they pose threats to our survival. Thank you very much. So in that regard, if rivers, forest reserve, and ecosystems are legally recognized as right-bearing entities, how would Ghanaians respond to environmental destruction change? How would Ghanaians respond to environmental destruction change? Brother Azanu, David.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, so if our rivers, forests were legally recognized or seen as living systems which have rights, what will happen? Enforcement will become less dependent on political will. We don't need political will to manipulate the system to say we want to enforce. No. Whether we like it or Galamsey is being tagged, we are trying hard to prosecute people, but it's all lies in the powers of the politicians. But if rivers and streams, forests have their legal rights, then civilians, anyone, civil society can take the matter to court and say, no, we are trampling on the rights of the rivers. They have the ability to flow. They have the desire, they have to be there without any contamination. But this is what is missing. And this could be a significant expansion of environmental justice in the country, where communities most harmed by pollution are also less resourced and also can also fight. Now, some communities cannot fight. Galamsey is going on their community. They want to stop it, but they don't have the power. But if this is being brought to bear, it will be able to help for these things to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. So if these natural entities have natural bearing entities or rights bearing entities, what it means is that the community individually and any group can now fight for their rights in courts, and enforcement will be less dependent. Thank you very much, David, for your response to that. So as a result, could recognizing the rights of nature, rights of rivers such as the Pra and Cobra, Ofin, and Birim fundamentally change how courts and regulators deal with environmental crimes? Could recognizing the rights of rivers such as Pra and Cobra, Ofin, Birim fundamentally change how courts and regulators deal with environmental crimes? Edem.
Yes, please, if I may come in.
Yes.
I think that absolutely. If we give such recognition to these rivers and all other natural resources in the country, I think that this is where the shift would become tangible, because as it stands now, some of these rivers are choked with the sediments from Galamsey, mercury, and other hard pollutant chemicals. And when some of these issues are taken to court, from my perspective, I think that the courts still treat some of these issues as regulatory infractions. Like maybe somebody has polluted beyond a threshold that is permitted, or somebody has done mining without a license. They don't actually see, the court is not seeing the harm that the river itself is feeling or is going through. The river becomes almost like, it is not, the case is not about the river per se. It is just like it's a human dispute. So if to me, if we are recognizing the rise of rivers, it will flip that narrative altogether. Rivers will then become legal entities with standing. And if they are harmed, the injury that is caused to the rivers is what will be tried. It will not be that because somebody did not do some paperwork right before entering the forest, or somebody, no, it will not be like, it will be the amount of harm that has been done. And I think this has been done in other jurisdictions before. In other jurisdictions where rivers have been given standing, you realize that the effect is phenomenal. The effect is quite tangible. So if PRA, for example, will have the same kind of voice, suddenly it will not be the prosecutor or a lawyer asking what law was broken, but the question will be, to what extent has the river been wounded? To what extent has the river been damaged? And what would it take to restore it to its past glory? And I think that, to me, that reframing will change the way people will be sentenced when they are found to be fouling the law. It will change the kind of remediation orders, and then the changes to seriousness with which societies will see the crime of polluting rivers. So to me, yes, absolutely. When we give the recognition to these rivers, courts and regulators will deal with the crimes in a different manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edem, for your response. Really appreciate that too, for all of you. So as a follow-up, and to Mr. Prince Anane, should the rights of nature be incorporated into the constitution of this country, enacted through legislation, or introduced through judicial interpretation? Which approach would be more effective? Should this right of nature introduced into the constitution, enacted through legislation, or introduced through judicial interpretation? Which of these approaches will be effective?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, once again. As already alluded to, as a country, we have enough laws on environmental governance. But right of nature brings a different perspective to how resources are seen. And as a result of that, I believe that as a beginners, because this concept is probably, and it looks like new in Ghana, and as beginners, I believe that it should be enacted as a legislation and then introduced into our system. But before people will change their perspective or perception about how resources are used or how they see resources, we must go for a strong advocacy, sensitization so that people will now come to understand what right of nature is about. Because I am of the view that you enlighten it either into the constitution or legislation, and people don't get to appreciate and understand what the rights of nature concept is about, it will still come to add up to the already laws that we have as the environmental laws that we already have. So the sensitization and the advocacy is something that we must vigorously undertake so that people will now get to understand it. And then when it is enacted into a legislature, then people's perception and other things will change towards how the resources are seen or are used. And I believe that that will go a long way to help us as a country in our environmental governance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anane, for your response to that. Advocacy and sensitization is key now, irrespective of the consideration, whether it be in our constitution or in legislation or through the judicial interpretation. Sensitization and advocacy is key now that we need to take it up. Thank you very much. And so therefore, how can traditional authorities, this to Dan, how can traditional authorities and indigenous knowledge systems contribute to recognizing and protecting the rights of nature in Ghana? Traditional authorities and indigenous knowledge systems contribute. Dan.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. You know, my research has been among the co-traditional people, the co-traditional area. I've worked extensively there. And it's very interesting how certain people are very indifferent when it comes to the role of traditional authorities. And I don't blame them, because talking about Galamsey, in Ghana now, you cannot exonerate traditional leaders. Unfortunately, they are key stakeholders, so to speak, in the ongoing Galamsey. But notwithstanding, I believe that traditional authorities and indigenous knowledge have a crucial role. And in fact, they have a very critical contribution in offering environmental stewardship. And why do I say that? Because traditional authorities and indigenous knowledge especially, they offer a different understanding of humans' relationship with nature. If in many traditional Ghanaian worldviews, and I believe that it cuts across most traditions, nature is not simply seen as a commodity. And that is the reality. Nature is not simply seen, especially in rural communities. It's not just seen as a commodity. You think of the land, you think of the rivers, you think of the forest, and other elements of the natural world. All these elements are embedded in a social understanding of the world, in our spiritual understanding. And I mean, I look at religion and spirituality, and yes, the environment is embedded in spirituality, in moral and in communal relationship. And so traditional authorities are an important custodians of ecological knowledge. No two ways about that. We cannot take that from them. And historically, we've seen how indigenous communities enacted ways of preserving the environment. You can think of sacred groves. As we speak now, if you go to my hometown in Ghana at the Konkwetia, there is a forest we call the Kwaekesie. And that's as now, almost all the forests are gone, but it's still there, despite all the challenges that comes with it. But they have said that it is a sacred forest. You cannot enter. Of course, there are laws. I mean, there are people who flout some of it, but still, you can still see that there are still impact of that there. You think of rivers as seen as gods, as seen as goddesses, as seen as the inhabitants of our gods, and all that you can think of. So all these comes to play to let you know that indigenous knowledge has really been a way forward for us in preserving our community. However, what I will be quick to add is that we don't have to romanticize traditional systems. No, we can't do that. We have to think of it in a way of working alongside contemporary science, working alongside constitutional principles, formal environmental governance. I think we have to work alongside that, yeah. But the key is that we have to create that meaningful partnership between traditional authorities, indigenous knowledge, and recognize it as a legitimate stakeholder when it comes to holding environmental knowledge. So I believe that Ghana does not need to import the rights of nature as entirely a foreign concept. No, we don't have to do that. We can draw from our own indigenous traditional ecological traditions, and where we see the well-being of the human community having a historical precedent, and then seeing it as not separable from nature. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dan. Interesting response from Dan too. There's this interesting scenario school of thoughts that is coming up. Is it possible to pursue responsible mining while respecting the right of nature, or are these fundamentally incompatible? Harrison, can you respond to that for us? Is it possible to pursue responsible mining while respecting the right of nature?
The short answer is yes. But it is noteworthy that responsible mining under rights of nature framework is radically different from the mining that is transpiring right now and that we know right now. Under the current legal system, mining laws always balance economic gain against acceptable levels of environmental destruction. But under the rights of nature framework, the priority flips. The ecosystem is paramount. The ecosystem's right to exist, function, and regenerate is non-negotiable. So mining can still exist, can still occur, but it will have to consider whether the ecosystem is going to damage or not. It have to factor all these into play. For instance, under this framework, riverbeds, headwaters, and forest reserves like Atiwa will be designated permanently as a no-go zone. So in such critical ecosystem, there's no way mining activity will actually transpire in these areas. But places that are outside these critical ecological zones, before any mining activity can transpire, the perpetrator or the miner should be able to put down a system. He should be able to undergo ecological integrity assessment to demonstrate that after or during the mining activity, the ecosystem is not going to be damaged permanently. If these are able to transpire, then mining activities will be able to be allowed to go on. But if they are unable to demonstrate this ecological integrity assessment, show it clearly that during the mining activity, the ecosystem will be able to regenerate, and thereafter, it won't hamper the ability to regenerate. If they are able to demonstrate it well, then it can transfer. But if they are unable, then it means that this mining activity will have to stop.
Thank you very much, Harrison, for your contribution. I really appreciate that. Azanu, I want you to respond to this. Ecuador and New Zealand happen to be successful in this rights of nature movement thing, and they've succeeded, and it's recognized in these countries as doing so well. What lessons can Ghana realistically learn from these experiences or their experiences, Ecuador and New Zealand? What lessons can Ghana draw from there to help us?
Thank you very much for this question. I think the discussion is getting on very interestingly, and I must say that learning from others and using what they have done is a key to see the impact it has had on their ecosystem, and you also learn from Ecuador. Have accepted Mother Earth in 2008, and that was historic. But enforcement has been, even because the legal structure and political will to back it were not because it was one person, it was actually accepted. And the lesson for Ghana is that constitutional language alone is insufficient. It must be something that have the dedication that everyone must be on board. It's not something that the people are trained, empowered, the civil society have a take in it, see the need that we want to do this for ourselves. And that's one key thing. Okay. It's not just going to enact a law that's right of nature we want to know. The people must own it. And that's why I really appreciate the way Daniel put it, that the indigenous people have they know how they have survived. In fact, traditionally, the lands have been preserved all these years till now. Our chiefs and also the indigenous means have been used to keep all these resources till now. So why? Our question is why? So we have to learn from what people are doing and use it. And we also have our own. Ghana traditional ecological relationship offers exactly what kind of cultural foundation we need. We have it already. The traditional ecological relationship we have. Traditional ecological relationship we have. Ghana believes in traditional ecological relationship, believes that we need the ecology to also survive based on, and we need to make that foundation, our cultural foundation, and learn from this. We build from this existing culture rather than importing a framework that is not our own. We don't have to import that one. We should start with what we have, improve on it, and rather push this agenda, and that will help us. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Azanu, for your question. So I come back to Edem. RoNAG has conducted stakeholder research on mainstreaming the right of nature into Ghana's environmental governance. Based on your experience, what were the most significant findings and what do they tell us about Ghana's readiness for this approach? The key findings emanated from the study. Edem.
Thank you. I would want to say that the stakeholder engagements brought to view a little bit of a paradox, a little bit of inconsistency, if I would dare put it that way. At one end, we see that at the grassroots level, as a people, we Ghanaians, we already live by, our ethics naturally gives some rights to nature. So stakeholder engagements brought about the fact that traditional systems long ago have recognized some natural entities that have been designated as sacred. We have days that are considered as taboo days for certain rivers. We have certain animals that are referred to as totems. And chiefs had always been the custodians of the land, and they were the ones that were enforcing some of these rights of nature. So in a way, I can say that yes, there's the readiness. The readiness is there culturally, and if I may borrow the word of one of the earlier speakers, I think that there's even the spiritual dimension to our rights of nature as a people in Ghana. But then I said it is a paradox because at the other side, when we come to the level of formal governance, it looks to me as though there is a gap. There is a gap because, frankly speaking, the political will seems to be, it is not really there for me. I don't see the political will, be it party A in power or party B in opposition or party C waiting in opposition, whichever party it is. I think the narrative doesn't change with political parties. So the willpower to do or to really enforce the rights of nation, the rights of uh, uh, some of these entities, it's not at the level where it should be. Many of the stakeholders that we have, traditional authorities, etc., you see that there is some form of enthusiasm when we mention the concept of rights of nature. There is some, outward embracement of the concept, and people even flag concerns, or people mention that they are not happy about the way, issues of rights of nature are being implemented in the country. But when we get to where we need to actually implement the laws or the acts, as far as mining is concerned, as far as capacity is concerned, there seems to be a gap existing over there. So to me, I can say that from the stakeholder engagement, one of the things or some of the things that have come up is that as a people, Ghana is ready. We are ready philosophically, we are ready spiritually as a people, in a way that even Western countries are not at the moment. But when it comes to the legislation, or when it comes to the institutions that should be the guardians of our natural entities, to me, as I stated earlier on, a lot still needs to be done. There is still room for improvement. And that is, to me, a very honest picture that I have seen. Thank you. Hello.
Michael, I think you are muted.
Oh, thank you very much, Edem, for your response. Really appreciate that too, as well. I want to come back to Azanu with this. The Rights of Nature Ghana movement has proposed constitutional pathways and submitted recommendations to Constitutional Review Committee. In your view, how important is constitutional recognition for transforming environmental governance in Ghana?
Oh, it's one of the ways we could embark on. I think our discussion here have shown that we need it, but we have also points where we need to push the strength to. As we are doing at the getting the bill passed or the law being passed in Parliament, or all these things, we need to also empower the indigenous, the traditional, the people themselves to own it up. If the civilian backing is not there, no matter how the law you get it enshrined in the books, it's just going to be like one of the laws. So for me, that's what I would say.
Thank you very much, Azanu. And then I come back to Harrison. Harrison, want to share with you that community and teacher education sensitization has been central to the movement's work. how critical is public education in ensuring that the rights of nature moves beyond policy circles and becomes a national ethic? Harry.
Please, before Harry comes in, if I may come in,
Okay.
I don't know, but I think it is not only critical.
Okay.
I would dare say that it is even foundational.
Foundational.
Because, yeah, I mean, I use the word to mean that it is basic. It is one of the basic things we need to do, because if people don't have a clear understanding of a right that they are supposed to uphold, if people don't feel ownership of the right, it will just stay on paper. Policy circles can pass the most beautifully worded laws that recognize the rights of all the rivers we have in Ghana. But if as a child living in maybe Hohwe, or a child living in Agbenohwe, or Nyakpanduri, or any of these places, if I don't see myself as a part of the natural entity's story, I can imagine that enforcement will collapse the moment the officials leave. That is why the work of teachers is very, very important. The work of teachers in this regard is very important, because teachers reach almost every child in every community. Okay. I mean, so if we are able to embed this ethic starting from the classroom, I'm sure that we are not just going to be teaching a subject, but would be shifting how the next generation relates to natural entities, the forest, and then the river bodies that are around us. So we can see the same principle working successfully in campaigns that had to do with defecation. You realize that, or even the campaign about child marriage, when people, Ghanaians understood and embraced the need to prevent open defecation and child marriages, you can see that gradually we have moved significantly away from those menaces. And the same could be applied to rights of nature. And I believe that it's a journey that is worth embarking on. Recent engagements that we had in the colleges of education, you could see the enthusiasm of the student teachers and the way they expressed their willingness to be a part of this. And I believe that if we are able to double our efforts and get the powers that be to embrace it, to become a part of our curriculum, the very next few years we'll begin to see positive impacts as well. Sorry that I had to take the wind out of the sails of the one you called.
Oh, that is okay. That's where it was possibly a swap. It was actually
okay.
coming to you, but it was an oversight from my sheet. So thank you very much for intervening in that respect.
It's because I'm so passionate about this. That is
exactly
why
because of the teacher community, and you coming from the educational perspective. It falls in line with your area of specialization. So thank you very much. And with all panelists, I think you've all responded perfectly to all the issues that came on board, and we really appreciate your contributions and your points shared on today's special day. But I have something for you that I want your views in tense, and it's in seconds because our time is fast spent. We are supposed to end in seconds, and I'm stressing on the seconds. So give me that brief. I'm going to give you a statement. You conclude it for me. I'm beginning with Harrison. A statement, you conclude it for me. Complete this sentence. Ghana's fight against Galamsey will only succeed if, continue with that, if, So continue with the yes.
If the enforcement capacity is strengthened.
Thank you very much, Harrison, for your response. Azanu, if
you stop treating the rivers, forests, and soil that sustain us as that we are going to manage them, but we start seeing them as systems that owns integrity and have rights to exist.
Wonderful. Edem. Edem is a large.
Yes. Ghana's fight against Galamsey will only succeed if we teach the rights of nature to our children starting from the classrooms, because then it becomes a part of the whole fabric of our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prince Anane.
Yes. So Ghana's fight against Galamsey will succeed, from my point, if the laws are enforced fairly and consistently without political interference or corruption in the implementation of the laws.
Thank you very much. And we come to Dan.
Let me be the stubborn student who always changes the lecturer's question and answer it in his own way. So let me set my question. What I want to end with is that the short-term profit from Galamsey cannot compensate for the poisoned rivers and the forest, the sick communities, and the loss of ecological inheritance. So let's be aware. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All too soon, we've come to the end of the response from our able panelists for today's program. We really say thank you for your response. You've proved today that you have all the technical knowledge. Though you are coming from diverse background, you have technical knowledge in today's discussions. And Rights of Nature Ghana really appreciates you so much for your presence and your contribution. Today marks World Nature Conservation Day. World Nature Conservation Day. And I can clearly say that we have really celebrated the day well with this wonderful discourse and wonderful content that came on board. So before we conclude, I would love to once again invite Director Dr. Dickson Adom, the Director of the Rights of Nature Ghana Movement, RoNAG, to give us his closing remark before we draw the curtains to an end. Doug, the platform is
thank
yours.
you so much. Thank you so much, our moderator, Dr. Michael Essuman. Our time is fast spent. We had wanted to pick some few questions from participants, but we have only, I think, 4 minutes left.
4 minutes, yeah.
Yes. So I don't know if you can do just a question from the participants before my closing remarks.
Okay. Thank you very much for that too. So I'm back to the platform. Has somebody, Benjamin Kwashi, in fact, let me say something small about Benjamin. Was the first person to register on the platform, and he waited even when I was doing something on the platform. So Benjamin, you have the platform. You have the platform to ask your question.
Thank you, Essuman, and thank you very much, our panelists. It has been a very insightful discussions, and I want to use the opportunity to also thank the organizers for this engagement. From the discussions, I've been reflecting, and there is this thing that comes to mind. I don't know how it can be factored in as advocates of the environment and how we can sustain it. So our indigenous people, in their own wisdom, had a way of preserving the natural resources and not desecrating it. And fast forward, we build a system where we have a central governance where some sort of leverages have been given to other people to tap those resources. Mind you, the indigenous people feel they own the lands, the resources, the rivers, and the forest where they live. They feel that it's an inheritance from their ancestors, and they have been preserving it, only for a centralized system to give leverage to other people to, if you like, win the resources or tap the resources. And to what extent have these people been benefiting from, if we look at our mining communities and our forest communities where all these resources are being taken away from? What direct impact, what sort of development, how are the people being taken care of? Even if we look at our cocoa growing communities and all that. So it comes to a point where the people will be feeling that, well, we have been preserving these things and people come take it away. Isn't it time for us to exploit our own resources in any which way they want to go about doing it? This is an emerging sort of mindset that is escalating, especially mining in communities around the remote areas and stuff like that. They are feeling the land is for them and they are going for their resources. And so they don't care about what you are saying. This is because over the years, probably we have neglected their needs. We have neglected having very good road connections from their communities and stuff like that. So whichever law that we are bringing in, it is fine. But how are the people who felt that they are the custodians of the resources have been factored in the national developmental agenda, and how are they really benefiting from the resources that we are tapping, even if we are managing it or we are tapping it in a very decent manner? How are they benefit? If that is resolved, I believe we are able to get them on board to champion the protection of their resources, because they know they are benefiting directly from it, and they are going to do everything that it will take to protect the water bodies around their environments or their jurisdictions. Okay. So this is a take I just want to put across. Thank you so much for the insightful discussions, the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you to Benjamin for your side of view that you shared. Well noted, and the part that we'll take note is, to what extent does the community benefit from these resources that is being taken from their, what they have from their land and their water body? Thank you very much. Any other question? From the members?
So Dr. Essuman, I think you can ask any of the panelists who wants to respond to the question.
Respond to that.
Yeah,
because he didn't put in the question form. That's why.
Ended because our time is
yes
up already.
Yes. So who champion one person to respond to Benjamin's?
If I may quickly, I think what Dr. Kwashi just said, when we look at it from the perspective of the traditional, the owners, the traditional authorities, who believe that they are the custodians of the land for the generation that is yet unborn, then it is something that they received from the generation that has passed and therefore needs to be taken good care of. The conversation kind of slightly shifts away from just the economic benefits. It is not just what they stand to gain. It borders even to some extent on identity. And so the conversation, we can look at it beyond the economic benefits alone. Exactly. Yes. But because of time, maybe we can continue this conversation.
Exactly.
After this. Yeah. Sure. Dr. Benjamin Kwashi, thank you so much for your comment.
Thank you so much for your comment. Yeah, we have to take it up. So, Director,
Yeah, so the discussion is getting even more interesting. But because our time is up, we need to respect the time. So on behalf of the Rise of Nature Ghana movement, I really want to thank you, Dr. Michael Essuman, for moderating this discussion. And to our esteemed panelists, our Deputy Director, Prince Anane Agyei, Dr. David Azanu, Dr. Prince Edem Dzakpasu, Dr. Daniel Boamah Asante, my own brother, and Harrison Kwabena Owusu. We thank you so much for the insights that you've shared. We also want to thank our dear participants for making this event a success. So today's discussion has reaffirmed that the environmental crisis confronting our country, Ghana, requires more than the conventional approaches that we know. It has reminded us that we need to embark on a fundamental shift in how we relate with nature. And the Rise of Nature framework also has helped us to appreciate the need for us not to see nature as just a resource for exploitation, but recognize nature as a living being, a living entity with inherent rights. I want to say that all participants, we are going to give you certificates of participation, hopefully by end of day tomorrow. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day. We are hoping to see you in our future webinar series. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you too very much, Director. Thank you all the panelists. God bless all of you for your time and for your contribution. And
Thank you so much.
non-panelists that participated, thank you and God
Thank
bless
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.